Well, welcome back to Think About It, where you can come and daily, digitally come in and check in with me for thought and an update, all from a biblical worldview and all in under 3 minutes. Remember, our focus this week is back on the book of Jeremiah. So if you haven't already, be sure to check out episode 16 all the way to 20 that set up more content and context of this book through chapter 44. The last time we saw the outrageous stupidity of God's people basing their worship on comfort and feeling instead of God's promises. But in today's episode, we see God promising future judgment on a new target, and that's the nation of Babylon. And the reasons, God says, it was because of arrogance. And that Friday Thought and Update is coming your way right now. Well, success today is seen through money, power, and followers. And with the power of social media, the average person can chase after their own corner of the limelight, most of the time through content that has no practical value and certainly no eternal significance. And as a result, arrogance, it seems, is just as infectious as the coronavirus. But as we said before, this is really nothing new. We see in one of Jeremiah's closing chapters a promise of judgment on the nation of Babylon. And guess why? It's arrogance. And we see a summary in Jeremiah 50, verses 31 to 32. See, I am against you, you arrogant one, declares the Lord Almighty, for your day has come, the time for you to be punished. The arrogant one will stumble and fall, no one will help her up. I will kindle a fire in her towns that will consume all who are around her. Now, history tells us that this judgment was against Babylon. Babylon was under Assyria until 626 BC, but it reached its peak around 605 when Nebuchadnezzar took the throne. But after his death, the nation declined rapidly until 539 BC when Cyrus of Persia conquered Babylon with little effort. And what's so amazing is that Babylon is condemned for its arrogance here in Jeremiah 50, and its strongest king, Nebuchadnezzar, had the same problem. Daniel 4 records how Nebuchadnezzar, after consistently ignoring God's warnings, learns the place of pride before God and the price of it. He spends the day walking around the top of his palace, asking a question. Daniel 4:30, is this not the great Babylon that I have built by my mighty power for the glory of my majesty? The Bible says immediately Nebuchadnezzar hears a voice from heaven declaring that all his authority has been stripped away. He's driven away from the palace, and he spends the next 7 years with a mental illness. He lives like an animal. His hair grows like eagle's feathers and his nails like bird's claws. But Daniel 4:34 tells us what happened at the end. Nebuchadnezzar prays to God. It says, at the end of that time, I, Nebuchadnezzar, raised my eyes toward heaven, and I praised the Most High. I honored and I glorified him who lives forever. And you can find the rest of his praise through verse 37, where Nebuchadnezzar closes with this statement, those who walk in pride he is able to humble. I've often wondered if I'll see Nebuchadnezzar in heaven one day. And while I can't be for certain, I do have a feeling that I will see him and I'll hear him saying what Jeremiah prophesied about him in Jeremiah 50, verse 34. The Redeemer is strong, and the Lord Almighty is his name. It seems to me that if God can instantly humble the most powerful man in his day down to his knees, then he can certainly humble us when we refuse to turn from our sin and our arrogance against him. So don't let this season of distancing distance you from a humble heart. Pursue real might, real power, which is dependence upon our Savior. For as Jeremiah said, he is our strong Redeemer, and the Lord Almighty is his name. Think about it.